a lot of my day has been, So, I was, So, at the clinic, they keep on telling me, it keeps on getting brought up, why don't you apply for disability? Because, I'm clearly hindered, physically at least, and I have a qualifying diagnosis otherwise. I have PTSD. This qualifies. There's a very, very, very limited amount of stuff I can do. And, I guess that's the grounds that I get denied. There was this one point I let them apply for me just to shut them up. I'm like, now I just reference this time every single time somebody brings it up. Like, yeah. And now I just reference it every single time they bring it up. I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with this headache. I actually don't feel well today. I thought I would be fine, but no. Apparently, I've got one of those bugs. It wasn't just sneezing. On the bright side, I don't have to blow my nose a bunch yet, so it's not in like the epic stages of misery yet. But I'm pretty sure I'm coming down with something, and I'm trying to like circumvent it. So I've been doing what Jean wanted me to do today, which was take it easy. Whether or not our versions of taking it easy are the same or not is a different matter entirely. His idea would be just me taking a giant nap all day. Like hell. That's not my idea of taking it easy. There are days that he'll be like, I thought you were supposed to take it easy today. I was like, I was taking it easy. That was taking it easy. And he was like, that's not taking it easy. Yeah, so we've had discussions about that. He's just sort of accepted that my idea of easy is not his idea. And that if I do take a giant nap, it means I'm sick. So anyway, that's pretty much our detector for it is I fell asleep for a couple hours. And I didn't mean to, and it didn't have anything. And then I slept for like 4 hours, 5 hours last night, and I'm not at the point where that it would be normal for me to sleep 5 hours. Yeah, there's a pattern that goes with not sleeping a lot. You sort of end up in one. Whenever the pattern deviates, we know I'm getting sick. And then I felt like such crap. My immune system sucks because it's doing stuff it's not supposed to. So, that I guess that kind of puts all the effort elsewhere sometimes. So, yeah. My immune system isn't very strong to begin with. So, yeah. Great for my thyroid. Not great for anything else. I mean, if your immune system is attacking a part of your body, I guess you don't want it to be as strong as it could be, because, that would suck. Yeah. So, anyway. Here I am, like, dealing with all this shit, and now I'm finding out that the student loan company isn't supposed to decide things the way that they do in regards to disability. Like, if I had to, I could provide doctors' notes, and I don't even know how that works. Do you get doctor's notes? Documentation just that this person is disabled? Yes. Confirmation, this person has a disability. This prevents them from doing this, this, and this. It's a little less clear cut with PTSD. As far as that goes. I mostly pushed past that stuff, mostly. It does make everything a lot more, like, whenever you deal with situations that trigger these things, it does make it more mentally exhaustive. But I've long learned how to deal with that part. Whenever I get stuck in flashbacks at home, we have the cats. Those two will pull me out of it. Currently, they are laying by the door, but the bedroom door. So, yeah. No, Gorgeous just... Nope, she's on the stairs now. Yeah, that's where she's at right now. She's just sort of, like, switching her spots, I guess. I don't know, maybe she's mad because I said her name, but I didn't call her. So anyway. Yeah, most of my stuff that is hindering me is physical. Not that. I mean, it does make it harder to do certain things longer. And that much stress can actually negatively impact other things. And can result in me legitimately just not having as strong, like, an immune response to being sick. I mean, I don't know how to put it. Like, it makes it harder for my immune system to deal, and my immune system is already compromised. So, that's, like, the biggest thing. Like, you'll get mentally exhausted, and then, your body's, like, so stressed from having to deal with this, because, yes, PTSD does actually have an actual response in your body too. Yeah, it's a trauma response, which means that, and I have complex PTSD, which makes that infinitely more likely, and I deal with it often. Like, I can't not go through it in a day. It is literally impossible for me to avoid triggers. So I've learned how to live with it, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I can change the effect that it has on my body. So all I can do is minimize it. I don't know what else to say to that. But whenever we get into stuff that hinders me, like, I can't stoop. If I try it, I certainly can't do it consistently, and I have to, like, be able to lift myself up basically with my arms. And then I have to contend with the fact that my hip will pop out, and, like, this morning I was just sitting in a chair and I leaned wrong, and then I had to, like, move and pop my hip back in. That's pretty much my normal at this point. I mean, I can't lift a bunch of stuff. There's days I can't bend at all. It's not... And then there's the fact that all these jobs that I could do, a bunch of them want you to have a college degree in such and such. And I'm like, well, I don't have this. So they're like, oh, you could conceivably do this. Well, not really. This requires a level of education I don't have. And I'm still dealing with the student loans. And now I'm finding out that some of the stuff that they've said about qualifying for certain things is a lie. And, of course, their response is, well, we're not responsible for a system that jacks up the price so that they have to take out student loans. Well, you could always just not give loans that big. or that many to anybody. And then the schools would have literally no choice. In order to have enough students, they would have to lower their rates. There's actually a cause and effect here. The more loans you give, the higher. Some of these schools raise their rates in response directly to the lenders and how much money that they know that they can get. They don't care that they're putting students in debt, and I wish that I knew this at 18 and 19. And yeah, I did a lot of stuff back then. Like, I was just trying to establish and get my life on track, and just a shit show of stuff happened. Like, just boom, 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 boom. So yeah, I don't like to talk about this part, but I did actually go to college. And they did actually keep a bunch of the loans and a bunch of the money that they were really technically supposed to send back. Both schools that I attempted to go through, because the one that I attempted to go to later, years later, also took out extra loans I did not authorize them to do. And then they didn't even account for why they needed this, what anything was for. There was like nothing. It was just, you have extra funds you can request, and then you don't. And now you owe us money on top of this because we basically took out all the loans that we could take out for you. I wasn't even going there for 3 months. And they had screwed me so hard. It wasn't even funny. I probably owe more in student loans than, I don't know. I just don't know. That I know. Because I have seen it. It's just that the exact number, I don't really know right now because I didn't ask today, I guess. And I was just told that they can't put a hold on it until it's within 30 days. There's no deferring over the phone for now, so I'm sort of like, wow, I have to call soon. They're like, within 30 days of the payment. And I'm like, isn't it 30 days within the payment? I got one of those. Like, you sometimes you have to call multiple times so that you can get someone who's actually worth something. Who actually knows what they're talking about and really actually wants to do something for you. Today, I got one of the ones who's probably why there's that lawsuit going on. Yeah, there's apparently multiple lawsuits. They're just saying, basically what they're saying is, don't hate the player, hate the system. I can hate both, you know? Especially since there's stuff on there that I didn't even know. I asked years ago how to take my grandfather off as cosigner. And just, I was told I couldn't do that. I was told that once somebody co-signed, there was no taking them off. One of my student loans, whenever my grandmother wanted me to go to this one school, my grandfather co-signed at the school for a student loan. I think it was a federal student loan. And yeah, he co-signed for that. And they haven't let me take him off of it. There's been a way this whole time to take him off of it. And I've tried. He's done no end of crap at some point because he was on here and he felt resentment for this, and I could have just taken him off of it, and they've just been lying to me about that. And I am like, excuse me? So, I'm actually learning a lot reading this stuff because, what you have to understand is that people who are lied to like this, we don't really have another source of information until something like this happens. So there's other stuff like that where I'm like, okay, so I've been lied to about this and this and this. Why? Because they can get away with it because we don't really have another source of information for that. Now I'm mad. I'm like super mad. Very, very mad. Anyway, I can't stoop. I can't run most of the time. And I can't bend. I can't even get off a step stool without considering like how it's going to affect me. And how much pain is going to be involved. So, oh, and apparently they've switched with Social Security, I guess. The last person to try and get me to apply at the clinic was like, oh, they won't approve you unless you're on medication. That's right. And I'm like, what? PTSD is a little bit different than other things. Like, there isn't medication for it except this very recent pill that basically gives people dreamless sleep and makes most people worse. I'm not one of the people that this is going to help. So there is no medication for me as far as PTSD goes. Like, that's the only thing that I have there. That's why I'm not on anything for it, because there's nothing for it. I have 2 ESAs. They call them companion animals. But over the years, I've actually trained them. They have jobs. I don't need to take them to a store with me. It would probably help if I had something like that, but I've never had that luxury. So I just never had it. At one point, I was training Lucky for it, and we did not get the best reception for that, even though I actually had him in a carrier for it. I was just getting him used to being out, and they were just like, nope. Yeah, this actually happened. It didn't matter that he was in training, nothing. So anyway, I trained them at home. And both of them are too old at this point. Lucky's 8 years old now. He's not the tiny kitten he was back then. He is pretty well set in his ways. Gorgeous is like 10 or 11 years old. She actually may be older. The best guess from the vet was that she was 2 or 3 years old whenever we got her. And paperwork showed that she was at least such and such years old. Not 6 months. But that's the only part of that I was mad about. I was mad about being lied to, but it didn't actually matter to me whether she was I didn't mind an adult cat. So, I mean, she's already, trained and everything as far as, using the litter box goes. It's not like she was going to be pissing everywhere. That I would care about. And it is also easier, it was easier to train Lucky because she was already trained. I'd already trained her. I've never had problems training animals. It's easy for me. I don't understand some people and they're like, cats are impossible to train. I'm like, well, you just have to understand the cat. What motivates this cat? How do you get them to do what you want them to do? Also, some cats aren't willing to do certain things. And certain types of training you have to do early on, whenever they're kittens. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's kind of the same thing with dogs. If a dog is not used to going out in public, and dogs are easier because they go on walks and they deal with strange people sometimes. So if they go to dog parks and stuff and, you can take that conditioning and change the response to it. Cats, there's no cat parks. Cats are not that socialized. That is the reality of it. They deal with people. They don't really deal with other cats. They don't really learn to deal with how to deal with other animals, strange animals. I mean, even if they live with animals, they don't necessarily know how to handle other animals. Animals that they've never seen before. So cats, generally speaking, if you want to train them for this sort of thing, you have to start whenever they're kittens. And you have to condition them to be able to handle it. Kittens don't get as much stress from this as far as like that goes. I used to wear a bra and I used to carry Lucky around in my bra. He was good as long as he was in there. You know? It's just sort of a thing. So, I've told them several times, look, they've denied me, I don't want to deal with this. And yeah. And it's also, yeah. So they're like, oh, we'll do it again. And so I've actually done this before just to shut them up. I'm like, okay, you know what? You apply. Never say that at a clinic that you go to for anything like mental in nature. PTSD is considered mental health stuff, so yeah, that's what I actually have. Not what they said to rip my family apart, just PTSD. So, yeah. So they've been like, oh, well, PTSD qualifies, and you have so many things you can do. So just apply. And no, yeah, I'm pretty damn disabled, but I also hate looking at it as being disabled. Thing is that I don't know what I can ask for as far as accommodation goes. Like, most companies have this idea of what it is, and they don't necessarily understand the fact that if you can function with this, they need to provide this, as long as it's reasonable. And it is reasonable, but some of them like to map out ahead of time all the stuff that they're willing to do. And I've actually been told before that a very simple thing was something that they wouldn't do, or that they wouldn't even hire me if I needed, even though I was providing my own. So yeah, some serious discrimination happens in the state of Arizona. They don't like people with disabilities, and they also don't like you if you cannot do hard labor because of disability, obviously. Hard labor would be stuff like, well, basically I can't carry a bunch of heavy things. I can hammer a nail. I can accurately measure things. But if you want me to be bent over something over a long period of time, there is a specific reason why I used to sit in a lower chair. Just so that I wouldn't be bent over. So, I need that ratio to be different. So that I'm not bent as far. Otherwise, it will fuck me up. And I will be completely fucked up by the next day. So, I don't even apply for stuff like this because I know that they're not going to do this. Because can't carry things. I can work a saw, but I have to sit down a lot. And I have ways to work around this at home. Workplaces don't do that. They don't really put in for that. And then the fact that I don't speak Spanish becomes the big, huge thing. It's just a giant pain in the ass. So, the stuff that I can do that actually helps in its way, I work with my hands a lot because that helps keep me grounded in the present. Then in Arizona, I guess it's just it doesn't even matter that they don't do these things. It's just Like, there are ways around a lot of things. You'd be surprised. Where there's a will, there's a way. But, like, it still makes it harder for you to sustain that. That's the thing. So, in Arizona, there's a lot of companies that, even though they could hire more people who have blatant disabilities, they're like, oh no, we want full-time now. Suddenly, they all want full-time. Like, a couple of years ago, they all wanted part-time because they wanted to, like, avoid Obamacare and enforcement of Obamacare. And, you know, they were just like, oh, if you work under these hours, we don't have to provide insurance for you. They suck. So, yeah. At one point, I'd actually been approved, and I'd gone through the adult process of being approved. And then one day they sent me a letter saying, you can walk, you can talk, you can think for yourself, you can work. So I've been figuring out whatever ever since. But yes, I have a shitty immune system, joints that suck, and a bunch of other stuff. I have to take hella breaks even at home. I mean, why would they want to pay for me to do this, to do it, whenever I have to take breaks? On the other hand, I'm more efficient whenever I do things because I've had to learn how to get things done in a timely manner. More quickly than others. So, I mean, Gene, even whenever he was doing part-time, was doing the job, was doing enough work, was doing more work than other people were who were there for 8 or 9 hours. And that's what you basically end up doing, just to prove that you have a right to be there. Arizona doesn't like people with disabilities, and companies often don't either. If you can't do as much work as someone who's working full-time, they will often just fire you. Or, you know, it will just be a black mark against you because you're not doing as much work as somebody who's there twice as long as you. So, I don't know. It's crappy. It's shitty as hell. So, like, I take hella breaks at home whenever I need to. But then there are good days. And on those days, I get more done. And then there are bad days. Today is a bad day. Today is a very, very bad day. Any day I start out the day with my hip popping in and out is not a good day. Also, though, I have a headache, and it's not from my spine. It's a sinus headache. So, yeah. I get a lot of headaches where it'll come from, like, the back of here. And I've got a couple shooting pains there, so it means that my spine is involved, at least in part of it. But I know that I have a sinus headache, and I had a sinus headache beforehand. I just aggravated my spine from yesterday, because it was getting bad yesterday, by sitting like this, or laying like this, or just being like this in general. So, give me a sec. Keep in mind that this is like the highest I can look, like, as far as going up goes. I mean, it's not that, I'm not even really looking up. Like, here's my shoulders, they're going forward. This is, I don't get to bend my neck further than that, because my neck goes like this. It's like, meow. I have to look up to look forward. So, it sucks, but that's the way it is. So, my spine is fucked up. My hip is fucked up. My joints are fucked up. I have PTSD. And I don't speak Spanish. This is Arizona, where English doesn't matter. Because I've literally run into people working jobs here that cannot even speak enough English to even understand. Like, I actually texted Jean the other day. I was like, kill me. This lady that I'm like, she doesn't even speak enough English to understand me. I kind of limited my answers almost to yes and no because she couldn't understand me. Like, she could communicate it back at me. She'd clearly worked hard on that, but she hadn't learned to understand people actually speaking English. And there is a difference. It's like, I have trouble with people speaking sign language at me unless they do it very slowly, or unless it's specific signs, in Chris's case. That's mostly because I'm used to it. It speaks of lack of practice. It also speaks of the fact that my eyes suck in this case, with ASL. Also, nobody cares if you speak ASL in Arizona. At all. It doesn't even have value for TTYs or anything whatsoever. The only thing that you can do here is be an interpreter. And since I can't be an interpreter, knowing ASL, for all intents and purposes, for employment and all that, is useless. It is worthless unless, you want to be an interpreter. Nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares that I speak ASL. That I know what different signs are. If I actually had a pair of glasses that was up to date, I may actually understand more. Because I actually have had enough practice for that. But no, whenever you're dealing with someone who can speak clearly a language and has clearly worked hard on that, but they don't understand whenever somebody talks to them in that language, a fluent native speaker, you have a problem. This means that they haven't practiced enough. And I can't help you. Like, there are people with heavier accents who have had more practice. So they'd at least understand, like, the little bit that I was saying. You shouldn't sound that good and have me have to limit my answers to yes or no. Yes, work that hard, but also, like, get some practice. Like, there should be a requirement for jobs to test you, not just... And because you're required to be able to speak and understand English. There's a reason why these are two separate requirements. You can speak English, but that doesn't mean that you understand it. I do, however, respect the amount of effort that she put in. I mean, for you not to really understand it, but be able to pronounce it that well, you have to put hella hard work in. You don't even see that with some of the people who have been here a lot longer. But then, you get people who are like, yeah, I've been here for like 10 years and my accent is still this thick and I clearly don't practice English very often. And haven't really worked on it that much. Like, so they barely even they do speak it. And they at least understand most of what you say. But, I'm like, well, in 10 years, wouldn't you at some point work on your pronunciation? But I haven't asked that because it's rude. I don't know, I just think after 10 years, most people here, like, you can't even tell where they're from anymore. That's the natural thing of it, because people talk to one another, and that's how accents happen. But, like, if you're just sort of insulated in a community of people who all speak this language, and then you just kind of come out to work, it's different. And it shows. Because that's basically what it means. And then there are people like, oh yeah, I was brought here whenever I was like 4, but I still talk like, no. this means that they were basically insulated in a community within, a community. That, this was the language that they spoke at home, and the only language that they spoke at home, and that they weren't really dealing with people who spoke English. Because even the kids who have, like, another language spoken at home, if they're dealing with English speaking, yeah. Anyway, I guess a bunch of kids got sick, so Chris actually got home on time yesterday. Oh, wow, right? And I guess a lot of kids have just been kept home lately, or their parents are picking them up, I don't know. But the bus on the way home, a lot of them aren't having the kids be on the bus right now. It could be that they're sick. It could also be that some of them object to the fact that these kids are coming home soaked with sweat. Chris doesn't seem to mind. But we do make sure that he drinks a bunch of water. He didn't get home too sweaty, I guess. Still made him change. So yeah. Speaking of which, I have some laundry to go do. I need to go take something out of the dryer, switch over the washer, and then I have a load to put in, so yeah.